Hello and welcome to your weekly Golden Nugget. This is Riza with Full Awakening, and I'm here to bring you take two of this week's Golden Nugget. This is the second week in a row that I've done two takes of this live video, but this time it was technical difficulties and I really needed to sit with this reading for an extra couple of days, I think. I realized when I did the live feed the other day that it just wasn't fully baked. Like I didn't have a full embodied understanding of what the reading was, and especially what the tarot card reading was and how it related. And so my experiences over the last couple of days during waking time and dream time and teaching time and learning time have all helped me solidify this message a bit. So I'm here to bring it to you again. Happy Saturday, everyone. Every week I bring you these live readings, and for any of you that are new to this offering, this is my free little toss into the wheel of our greater community where I do a reading not for an individual or for a group that I'm working with, but for the collective. And I intend this message to be pertinent to everyone who's called to watch the video. So hopefully that's you. Hopefully you'll find some value in it and it'll give you something to chew on for the next week. And then we'll be back with another message next week. And I do also have to warn you guys that, I do these videos every Thursday, generally. Today's Saturday, obviously, because I'm having to do it a second time. But I'm about to go on to a short partial maternity leave starting July 1st and going all the way to the end of August. I'm due to have a baby, my third child, sometime in July. The due date's the 22nd, but I have a feeling it might come a little early. She might come a little early. So I've given myself a little bit of a buffer of time. So during that time, we're still going to release a new video for you every Thursday, but actually I should correct that and say it's not a new video. It'll be a return of one of our previous videos that we think has some value to add right now where we are. We have a team member that's going through all of the videos we've done over the last year and picking out 9 of her favorites for us to see again. So you'll still be getting that little nugget of information once a week to give you something to think about as you go through your week of life experiences, because life is always giving you all of the fodder, all of the material you need to learn what you're trying to learn here. So with that said, we're going to go to our reading. So I'll do the poem first, and then I'll explain the vision a little bit more. And the poem is called Birthing Water to Land. You are surfing the crest of the wave, pregnant with unknown possibilities. You smoothly and quickly glide onto shore to release your manifestation, only to have it grasped back and carried back into the ocean deep. Fear not, this departure is momentary, as the wisdom of the sea is needed to birth the earth back to land. Though the child is returned to your loving embrace, her transition to earth life is slow and gradual, like your movements from dreaming to waking. We welcome the ocean to meet us here, to flow onto land, and to teach us the ancient ways of our ancestors. The dream of nature is returning to the mind and hearts of humans. That's our reading. So to give you guys a little bit more of a fleshed out vision for what I was seeing, the first image was of a woman surfing, a very pregnant woman surfing like a tsunami wave. That's just this one really high wave. And sometimes when I think about the collective shift that's happening right now, what I do see is a tsunami that's carrying us all. Like we are all connected by a net of energy, and we're all being carried in this movement of this tsunami that's coming towards shore. And a part of the work that we do to attend to our own process of evolution, our own process of awakening, has to do with how much we can surf that wave and how much we're being dragged along the bottom of the sea by the wave. And we may find ourselves in all those different positions and everything in between at different points in this journey, and that's okay. And the point is, the people who are able to make it to the top of the wave, to surf that wave, are those that are sort of pulling the rest of us along and helping the rest of us to rise out of the depths to the surface, right? So in this vision, this woman, very pregnant, is surfing top of the tsunami wave and being led right to shore, where she quickly gives birth to this being, this baby, that is humanoid and also a sea creature to some extent. Looks a little like a squid or an octopus, and a human had a baby, right? And this baby gets immediately swished back into the sea to have its umbilical cord cut. And it reveals itself in that process of being a child, not really specifically just of this woman, but of the earth itself. So the umbilical cord actually goes to the earth. And this is a child of the deep earth, of the original heart of the planet. And it's given back to the woman. And the woman immediately finds that this child's very uncomfortable on land and is screaming for the water. And so she takes her back to the water and creates kind of a cradle in the water, and then very slowly starts to bring more and more of that ocean energy onto land. So it's almost as if, when I was looking at this vision a second time, it's almost as if it's the reverse of the natural flow of water that we think about. We think about the ocean being this reservoir of water, and the evaporation of the ocean creating the clouds, and those clouds being carried to land, and the rain and snow falling to land, and the ice on the tops of mountains forming, right? And all of these little like creeks and rivers being filled, and those rivers joining, and those rivers flowing back into the ocean. So we have this sort of trajectory that we think of, the cycle of water on the planet, right? And that's a very simplified one-dimensional version, right? But in this vision, with the ocean having to be pulled onto land, and again, the ocean representing the unconscious, representing our ancestors, mystery, our past, origins, right? The origin of life. It's a very interesting image of like pulling that to land, which represents our conscious life and our present manifestations, and our kind of losing the stream here for a second, but representing our waking life, basically. And so they mention in the poem this feeling of bridging the dream time with the wake time, and saying also that those of us who are dreamers and have been having really intense dreams lately, it's important to give yourself a little bit of buffer of time as you're waking up to try to pull and bridge that dream life with the waking life. So in this image, it was sort of the opposite. It was the water coming onto land and filling the land, and then raising up into the sky as rain, and then flowing back into the ocean. So it was this opposite trajectory as we usually think of in the cycle of water, which I thought was really interesting. This relates heavily to our very intense and potent tarot card reading that we did for this week. And so I want to show that to you now, and hopefully give you a little bit of insight about what these tarot cards might mean. So the very first card we pulled was this guy, the Lover's card, which is number 6 of the major arcana. And you can see it's like a depiction of a hand fasting ceremony. So the tying of the hands, that moment of choice and threshold of two are unifying as one. These beings are being promised to each other. They're promising themselves to each other in this union, and they're creating a threshold through that union. And if you can really see closely, you'll see that she's wearing a moon pendant and he's wearing a sun pendant, and he has dark hair and she has light hair, and he's wearing dark colors and she's wearing light colors. One of the meanings of this is not just about marriage or romantic relationship by any means. It's about the union of opposites. It's about the coming together of two opposing forces. So in this vision that I received, that I wrote down, that is basically what we're talking about, right? We're talking about the union of opposites in an elemental sense, earth and water, past and present. And those things coming together and meeting and actually overlapping, not just touching and meeting at the shoreline, but really having to like flow one into the other, right? And so then the next two cards that I picked are pretty hilarious. We've got the Queen of Swords and the King of Swords. It seems a little, too elegant to be anything but serious here. Here we go. So, the swords is the air element. And air is all about thoughts, ideas, wisdom, inspiration. And the queen and the king are actually very different in how they represent the mastery of this energy. So the queen learns through direct experience and through study about how to master transformation and the concepts of transformation. And she provides counsel and guidance to her friends and her family. And she is the person who will always speak the truth, right? The air energy is a lot about truth energy. So if you ask her for her true opinion about something, she will tell you her true opinion. And her words can be very powerful and sometimes a little bit sharp. So you might see like she's holding this winged dagger. And of course, we are all of these things, right? These are not outside forces. These are all us, some aspect of us. So this winged dagger is symbolic of the way that her words can really pierce and impact and travel far when she uses those words. And that she's so dedicated to her own process of truth discovery and truth formation that she can be a little impatient with people in her midst that are not as dedicated or not as courageous towards truth expression as she is. So you might find some of yourself in there as well. The King of Swords is very interesting. He's very different in a way. Obviously, it's the same element, so we're talking about the same energies, but see how he's evenly holding that sword in the very center of his heart, and he has a very different composure about him. The thing about the King of Swords is that he is a really good listener. He listens very, very deeply. So, while the queen is like, I will send out this energy, I will send out my truth, and I will guide, right? The king is like, I will receive, I will receive, I will receive, right? And as he receives, he's discerning and he's judging, and he has a very strong sense of right and wrong, or this and that, right? He has a very strong sense of discernment, and he's the judge, and he has the ability to give a very well thought out response to any question that comes his way. So in those sort of motions that I've just done, the queen is sending out and the king is receiving and listening. That might also be our sort of like the ocean is giving and the land is receiving the ocean. And to think about the alchemical nature of that union and of the meeting and overlapping of opposites in your own life. So the last card that we picked, because it was a 4-card pull, is the first card of the major arcana. It's the Magician. And I love this depiction of the Magician. She is pointing up to the moon. The moon is very much connected with her, and she's got her open book of magic. And the Magician is a student. She is a student of the divine, and therefore she is also a representation or an embodiment of the divine. And so what that indicates to me is, we have this very strong kind of intense relational reading of these 3 cards, of the Lover's card, Union of Opposites, and then we've got the Queen and the King of Swords, right? It's really really strong reading. And the Magician's saying, I am just a student. I am sitting in the mystery. And some of this makes sense to me, but a lot of it doesn't make sense to me. And I'm bringing a ton of curiosity to receiving deeper and deeper levels of understanding about what all this means. And so where I would go to with that in the end of this little nugget that I'm giving you guys is to look at that in your own life. Look at where your personal story right now, in this moment, this week, where your personal story is as far as these opposing forces and how they're coming together and how they're overlapping, and the amount of consciousness and the amount of mystery that you can bring to that will really deepen your understanding of how you're taking planetary energies into your life and making them personal. Right? And remember that whatever you're experiencing personally is related to what we're experiencing as a collective, even if the details are different. So allow yourself always to free yourself from the perspective that you're alone in your suffering, especially. And remember that there are so many people with you right now experiencing the same thing. Whenever I'm in a deep state of suffering, I always say, I'm having a very human experience right now. And it brings me more compassion to what other humans experience as well. So that's my message for you guys. I hope that it falls in a good place for you. And I will see you next week. And then pretty soon that maternity leave is going to happen. You guys are going to see some 9 weeks of Riz's best hits with the golden nuggets and pulse reports. And I just wish all of you so much strength and courage and curiosity in your journeys. We're definitely going through some large scale fluctuations and shifts right now. And it takes the brave of heart to stay with it and stay self-loving through all of that. So please love yourself today and every day, and give yourself a little extra pat on the back for the times in which you're able to show up and the times in which you're really able to be compassionate to ways in which you didn't show up. You know, we have to hold it all. We have to hold all the feelings, all of the actions, all the thoughts. All right. So love and gratitude to you for all you are and all you bring, and we'll see you next week. Okay, bye.